Good evening, I'm Giuseppe Basile, I'm the Instant Trader. You can find at the website www.flipstalker.com. I also post regularly on Twitter using the Flipstalker nickname. Good evening, today is Sunday, December the 7th, 2014. It's 20 past 11 time in Toronto, New York. This is GMT -5. And in this video, I'm going to review for you the 12 markets I follow, plus two additional markets that I'm going to review for you. And so let's start from the euro versus the US dollar, which is what you see on the screen here. And in this market here has been moving lower since basically May this year, so mostly Q3 and Q4, and we know that this market is going to eventually retest that 121.40, 121.20 level. In the last few weeks, we have seen the retest of this 128.60 level here, which actually brought price into that first target 123.33 just a few days ago, last week. Now this is a setup that was identified on the weekly after the fact, not before the fact, after the fact, but still this is important because it allows us to do price discovery. Now, we knew already that this market was going to go into 121, and I called the 126 a high here, and you can review the articles on FS Street as well. And this market is getting into the 121. So where we are at the moment, this market actually offered a good entry on Thursday here. The week before, we saw the market getting into this level and piercing this level 121.09, and then getting into the first target, and then the market moved quickly higher, and that's a pattern that I call basket setup, and the market actually came back all the way into that 124.39. so that's what it's trading at the moment. Ambush Traded is bringing price into 122 level, so helping price into that 121.40 target. So that's what we have to expect for this market. Moving to the SP 500, we know that this market is on a long that we timed this one 1832, and the first target is going to be the 21 level, and that's where this market is moving, is going to. We were able to time this a few weeks back. I had a lot of students who took advantage of this move higher. By the way, I run the Flipstalker Method Coaching Program. If you are interested, just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to provide you with more information. Now, what we saw in the last few days was a retest, was actually a violation of the sequence of measured move higher in the smaller time frame here in this market, and then this market went to trade a level, and it was possible to identify this level only after the fact. But once we had the market moving higher, we know the new target, of course, at 2087, that is going to help price to get into that 21 level. So this move higher is actually continuing, and in the last few days, we have seen market actually trading into the all the way halfway back here once, and this could actually be timed nicely. So congratulations to those who took this trade here, the 2062 into the first target, helping price into that 2087 and 21. And within this inner move here, there was again the market trading the all the way halfway back actually on Friday here, and that again was an opportunity that could actually be traded. So this market actually has inner move on the 4 hour that are visible on the 4 hour time frame here that are pushing price higher. Moving to the dollar index, The dollar index on the daily time frame is showing strength, continuing higher into and well into that potential area of resistance there. And now the that area of resistance, as you can see, last week was broken on the upside, or 89.20 was broken. So this whole area, this whole partial range resistance here is gone, and now this market eventually is going to target 99.92 and potentially 104.78. Of course, it's not say that this market is just going to continue higher in a straight move. I think that this market is going eventually to reduce its speed and even reverse when that euro dollar will go back into that 121, and we will see if there will be participation on the higher time frame from program trading at that level. Moving to gold, gold 191.90. Actually this market had a nice move higher last week. I know that some of my followers and students have actually taken advantage of it. The reason why we had that is because after the market broke the sequence of measured move short here on the weekly time frame, and this pierce of a few ticks here was enough. When the market started moving lower, as soon as that sequence of measured move ended, the market spiked higher. So what can this market do next now? Tracing from lows to highs here, there is the possibility for this market to get back into 1181 here, and then eventually continue higher into a first target 1240. Of course, we need to see participation at this 1181, and it's possible to time the sequence of measured move lower into this level using the Phipps Tolkien timing. Moving to the US dollar to Japanese yen, this market has been continuing moving higher. We remember that the second target was hit at this 115.80, but the market is being pushed on the continued upside and well above that 120 level by algos on the smaller time frame. And I can show you the sequence here on the for our chart. We had an high to high, an extension here from this side to the new high. There was participation at this 114.05, price getting into the first target and second target, and this market is continuing higher, pushed by program trading on the higher time frame, highs to highs. There was participation at these levels, and then when the market got into the 117.30, again it was an extension, so pushed the price into the first and second target. Then price now above that second target. So if it retraces, the next level where program trading will try to capture this market is going to be that 120.32. If price retraces into that level and then and never breaks to 120, then there is a continuation higher. Then moving to the euro versus Japanese yen, this market actually continued higher, and we know that there is a target, that is a target of a past setup 149.97, and price didn't make it there the first time, and then actually continued higher. And no, we could actually identify that level after the fact, so it's not really very important whether we are able to identify the level or not, because we actually continued to wait for this market to actually trade into that first target. And once the market gets into the first target, so we didn't get that just yet, 149.78, should see a more significant selling in this market. So the euro might become more weaker with respect to the Japanese yen here, and we could see a swift profit taking here based on the busted setup on a very long time frame here. Moving to the pound versus Japanese yen, we have this market on the other hand. It's trading an extension, and last week on Tuesday, and we saw the market hitting that first target. This market is also in a very large potential area of resistance here. However, at the moment this market is continuing higher, and it's actually trading. Let's look at this larger time frame here. It's actually trading towards that second level that would be below the 61.8%. So if price gets there into 195.92, I'm going to use the next measure move long in order to actually verify whether participation within this large area of resistance here, the area starting at 184 and ending at 200, is going to kick in and eventually bring price lower. We will see whether that happens. At the moment, congratulations to those who took this trade. 168.93, which brought price into 186.70 first target, and that would be a typical swing trade which took a few weeks here and had a great reward to risk. Next would be the euro versus the Canadian dollar, and we know that this market is moving into that 138.50. Back in May, end of May this year, I gave an interview and I mentioned this 138.50 level. The market went just 50 pips above it but didn't touch that level just yet. At the same time, it looks like this market is being pushed on the downside by the smaller time frame, because the sequence of measure move lower here on the daily failed. So as soon as we're going to see this market go 138, and potentially this could happen when the euro dollar comes into that 121. This could be a good opportunity for a long in this market. So I'm still waiting for that opportunity to come. A similar situation is in the pound versus US dollar. We have a full retracement here from the lows in 2009 here, beginning of 2009, to the highs in that we had recently in May here, sorry, in July here, mid of July, and this 153.55 is the level where this market is going to find participation from program trading on the larger time frame. So I'm going to wait and see what happens when the market gets there. Australian dollar versus US dollar, there was an initial participation at this 50% retrace here. As you can see, he gave a free risk trade, and then he came back into this level, and there was another reaction here from below the level, but eventually then the price continued lower, and he was able to hit at the beginning of last week the first target of this measured move from these highs to lows, which found participation here. And we can also use the slightly higher highs here. The results is the same. This market actually found participation at that 097, but on the opposite side there was also this weekly time frame, and whenever we have this large weekly time frame, you have to respect this level, and you have to try to get involved and get a position here. And in fact, this position worked for some time, and then eventually the shorts actually got continued to control this market and brought price into that first target, and now there is the potential for market to slide right into that 077.51, and after that we will see whether this market continues or there is a retrace all the way to the halfway back before a continuation lower. If that 079.39 breaks, It's a very important development for this market, because that would mean that we could actually see much lower prices here, and potentially this market could actually target the all the way halfway back here, which actually lines up with that level. So the market could actually come just below that level to hit the second target, and then we will see what happens at that starting in that 079.39 area there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in this market. And US dollar versus Canadian dollar has been moving laterally here around that first target 113.67 of this basket setup here, and it's within an area of potential resistance. I'm going to show you that again from the highs. Let me trace it from the highs in 2009 here to lows we are right into that area of resistance. The most important thing is that this market is actually hovering around this 113.67, which is a target of a basket setup. So that's where we could that's the reason why we could see this market continuing lower as well. And finally, the New Zealand dollar versus US dollar. This market actually reacted the first time at this 0.77 here for this trade, a second time for this trade, and then it came back and stopped us at break even here. It's now continuing lower. So there is this 0.7431. Of course, this market is very similar to the Australian dollar, and now there is the potential for this market, if it breaks this 0.7431, to come and trade all the way into the 0.6870, which means that if we break this 74.31, any bounce, it's an opportunity to sell into this 0.8670. This price here, it's not a good spot to sell. The market could actually react higher and stop you out. But that's what price structure analysis here, which is the analysis of the overall positioning of the algorithms is suggesting here. So price getting into this 0.6870. And next would be the pound versus the New Zealand dollar here. This market on the weekly time frame here, which is the time frame that you see here on the screen, actually traded from lows to highs, participation at this 188.83, which brought price into eventually first target. Now the next measured move has failed, as you can see here, from tracing from high to high. As you can see, there was a break here. Price went below 97 or 197.01, which means that the time frame, on the weekly time frame, there's no interest in keep buying this market, and it means that as soon as this measured move higher fails, there is the possibility for this market to actually trade all the way into that 188, and actually the price is there. So by using the proprietary Fibstalking timing technique, which is a timing technique that uses the sequence of measured moves that are in use by program trading on a smaller time frame, we are able to understand whether the participation on the downside here at this 203.43 will be stronger than the push higher here into the level of resistance. So what I anticipate is that sequence to break eventually, and this will actually start moving this price lower into the all the way halfway back that comes from the lows here to highs, lows in April to highs in at the end of September here, and price should then continue lower into this 193 83 here potentially. And finally, I want to close with the US dollar versus the Swiss franc here, which is a very technical, interesting market. And you will remember that we timed an extension long here from this high at the beginning of June 2014 to the highs we saw at the beginning of October, and this was able to capture to the pip the 0.9361. Now this larger daily setup as a first target 0.9836, and that's where we are moving. That level and area is also an area of target of this high to high here, the 0.9551, price into that first area of target. So that's where we are going to see this price eventually moving. And this is it for this week. I hope you this review is useful and you enjoyed it. Here we have the euro again getting into that 122 level, and let me have your comments if you I hope this review is useful. If you want to have more information about how I go with this analysis and information about my coaching program, just let me know, hit reply and write more info, and I'm gonna send more information to you. Thank you very much and have a great trading and non-trading week. Bye bye now.